What if everything you were told about yourself was wrong? These 15 transgender men didn't just change how the world saw them, they redefined who they truly are. Some were given hormones without consent, others fought through silence, stigma, and even fame. But one thing connects them all: unshakable courage. Their stories aren't just about gender, they're about identity, resilience, and becoming whole. Stick around, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into their incredible transformations together. Chaz Bono, born Chastity Bono to the iconic duo Sonny and Cher, first came out as a lesbian before fully embracing his truth. In 2008, he underwent gender reassignment surgery and legally changed his name. But Chaz's journey didn't stop there. He quickly emerged as one of the most visible transgender advocates in the world, taking on roles as spokesperson for the Human Rights Campaign and as a director at GLAAD. Throughout his advocacy, Chaz has worked tirelessly to educate the public about the distinction between gender identity, how we perceive ourselves, and sexual orientation, which defines who we're attracted to. It's a critical difference that's often misunderstood, and Chaz has used his own experience to bring clarity and compassion to the conversation. His voice has become a guiding light for many navigating similar journeys. Before fully stepping into his truth, Chaz struggled in the entertainment industry, often cast in female roles that felt alien to who he was inside. That disconnect eventually pushed him away from acting until he returned with a renewed sense of purpose. Today, he embraces roles that reflect his authentic self, using storytelling not just as art, but as a powerful form of self-expression and visibility. Harvie came out at 19 and lived for over a decade as a gay woman before realizing his truth and transitioning to a man in his 30s. For Ian, comedy became more than entertainment. It became a way to connect. "People think laughing isn't personal," he once said, "but it's one of the most vulnerable things we can do." Through humor, he found healing and a platform. Ian weaves his experience as a transgender man into his stand-up routines, blending vulnerability with wit. His honesty and presence have landed him roles on acclaimed shows like Transparent and Mistresses, where visibility truly matters. He often speaks out about how society grants male privilege or passing privilege to those who conform to traditional masculine appearances. Yet this visibility comes with complexities. He notes that masculinity tends to be less scrutinized and more respected, which allows trans men like him to move through the world with less interrogation. But Ian doesn't take that privilege for granted. Instead, he uses his voice and stage to shed light on the unseen layers of identity, challenging assumptions while continuing to inspire through authenticity and truth. Laith Ashley, a transgender man, found remarkable success in an industry where representation has long been lacking. As an underwear model, he broke barriers by becoming one of the first trans men to land a national modeling campaign, partnering with retail giant Barney's. But Lou's journey began much earlier. He remembers feeling a disconnect between his mind and body as early as 5 years old. After coming out as gay at 17, he later realized that being transgender more accurately reflected his truth. Just 2 years into his transition, the modeling world started to take notice. He describes his career as exciting, though often surreal, especially when strangers recognize him in public. It's flattering, and honestly, a little shocking, he admits. While the spotlight brought admiration, it also came with pressure. Lou never intended to become a role model. The label was placed on him after his photos went viral online, drawing massive attention, both positive and painfully critical. At first, the wave of negative comments was emotionally overwhelming. But over time, Lou learned how to navigate the complexities of being a visible trans figure in the media. He's embraced his platform with honesty, acknowledging the challenges, but choosing to stand in the light anyway. Now, as both a model and an unintentional icon, Lou continues to inspire others simply by living his truth out loud. Born Tracy L. Lagandino, Thomas Beatie made a deeply personal decision to undergo gender reassignment surgery, while choosing to retain his female reproductive organs. In the United States, sterilization is not required for a legal gender change, and this choice would eventually shape the course of his life in a historic way. When he married his wife, Nancy, who was infertile, Thomas opted for artificial insemination using a sperm donor. The first attempt resulted in a heartbreaking ectopic pregnancy with triplets, which he tragically lost weight. But Thomas didn't give up. In time, he successfully carried and gave birth to 3 children, becoming the first legally documented male to give birth. His story captured global attention and sparked debates about gender, family, and identity. Despite the media frenzy, Thomas's friends and family stood by him with unwavering support, often joking about the logistics, but never doubting his role as a loving parent and committed husband. Unfortunately, not all parts of the journey were joyful. Thomas and Nancy eventually divorced under difficult circumstances, but his story remains a landmark in transgender visibility. It challenged rigid societal norms and opened up a broader conversation about what it truly means to be a man, a father, and a family. Chris Mosier began his athletic career competing as a woman, but in 2010, he made a life-changing decision. He transitioned to live as a man. Just 5 years later, he made history by becoming the first openly transgender athlete to join a U.S. national team. He earned a spot on Team USA's men's sprint duathlon squad for the 2016 World Championship, breaking barriers that once seemed impossible. That same year, Chris became the first trans athlete featured in ESPN the magazine's body issue and appeared in a groundbreaking Nike ad that challenged traditional views of gender in sports. Yet when he first considered transitioning, Chris feared it might end his career. He worried that his performance would suffer and that there were no visible role models for him in the athletic world. But the opposite happened. His drive only grew stronger. He rose to elite levels in his age group and embraced competition as his authentic self. Today, Chris uses his story to inspire others, showing that being true to yourself doesn't mean giving up on your dreams. It means redefining them on your own terms. On a day meant to celebrate living openly, Issa Adu made the kind of announcement that echoes far beyond a single post. Formerly known as Ella, the only child of legendary soul singer Sade Adu, came out as transgender on National Coming Out Day, sharing his truth with courage and vulnerability. At just 20 years old, Issa posted a powerful message on Instagram. "Today is the first day of the rest of my life," marking the beginning of his hormone therapy and the next step in his journey. He paired it with the hashtags #DarnMadeMan and #Finally, 2 simple words that carried years of waiting and quiet strength. While he had once identified as a lesbian, this moment was about fully stepping into who he really is. Though Sade has remained silent in the media, Issa has spoken with warmth about their connection, calling his mother the most important person in my life. Whether he chooses to hold on to the name Ella or embrace something new, Issa's message is loud and clear. He's living his truth, and he's not looking back. Andreas Krieger, born Heidi Krieger, was a champion shot putter for East Germany's national athletics team. From a young age, Andreas unknowingly began developing masculine traits, changes that were later revealed to be caused by anabolic steroids, secretly administered by government officials without his knowledge or consent. The East German doping program had taken control of his body before he even had a chance to understand it. In 1997, Andreas made the decision to undergo gender reassignment surgery and legally changed his name, embracing an identity that had long been buried under layers of manipulation and silence. But his transition came with complex emotions. While he had experienced gender dysphoria before, Andreas expressed deep sorrow over the fact that his journey into manhood was not truly his own choice. "I was thrown out of my gender," he said, a powerful reflection on how his autonomy had been stolen. The impact of the doping went beyond gender identity. Years of intense training and steroid use caused severe physical damage, eventually forcing him to retire from athletics due to chronic pain. Andreas's story is not just about transition. It's about consent, bodily autonomy, and the dark consequences of unethical practices in competitive sports. His experience stands as a stark reminder that defining one's identity should always be a matter of personal agency, not institutional control. Ryan Sallans, born Kimberly Sallans, is an accomplished author and public speaker who has dedicated his life to discussing crucial topics like eating disorders, body image, gender identity, social justice, and LGBTQ+ youth advocacy. His transition began in 2005 with hormone therapy, followed by a bilateral mastectomy in 2006 and metoidioplasty in 2008. After legally changing his name, Ryan stepped into the public eye as a voice for authenticity and self-acceptance. His story gained further recognition through the documentary Gender Rebel, and in 2012 he published his memoir, Second Son, Transitioning Toward My Destiny, Love, and Life. Through both personal narrative and public outreach, Ryan emphasized that honoring one's true self is non-negotiable, even when the path is filled with uncertainty or discomfort. His writing has touched thousands, offering a roadmap for those on similar journeys. But like many trans individuals, Ryan's path wasn't without emotional struggle. His first romantic relationship after transitioning was marked by tension as he tried to shift himself to make his partner more comfortable. The result? He only felt more isolated and untrue to himself. That experience taught him a crucial truth. You can't shrink your identity to fit someone else's comfort. You have to live fully, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Aydian Dowling, a transgender man, rose to prominence as both a bodybuilder and a vlogger, using his platform to share the intimate realities of his transition. As fans watched his journey unfold, they rallied behind him, launching a petition to have him featured on the cover of Men's Health magazine. Though he didn't land the cover of the standard issue, Aydian made history by being featured in a special edition, becoming a symbol of strength and visibility for trans men everywhere. His breakthrough didn't stop there. Aydian later became the first transgender man to appear on the cover of Gay Times, further solidifying his role as a pioneer in LGBTQ+ representation. But for Aydian, some of the most powerful moments came off camera. He once shared the story of a woman casually calling him sir at a 7-Eleven, the first time a stranger recognized him as male. That moment, though small to others, was monumental to him. He described it as like all my Christmases had come at once, saying he felt like he was living on cloud 9. In that fleeting exchange, Aydian experienced a profound sense of validation, proof that the world was finally seeing him as he saw himself. His story reminds us that sometimes the most ordinary encounters carry the deepest meaning. Balian Buschbaum, formerly known as Yvonne Buschbaum, was a successful German pole vaulter who made headlines, not only for his athletic talent, but for his courage. After struggling with a persistent injury, Balian announced his retirement from professional athletics. But shortly after, he shared something even more personal. He would be undergoing gender reassignment surgery to finally live as his authentic self. From a young age, Balian sensed something was missing. When puberty hit at 13 and his body began to develop in ways that didn't align with his identity, he felt an intense disconnect. "It felt like they didn't belong to me," he said, referring to his chest. In an effort to suppress those changes, Balian doubled his weight training regimen, hoping it would delay menstruation and flatten his chest, a physical response to a deeply internal struggle. After retiring, he adopted the name Balian, inspired by the blacksmith-turned-knight from the film Kingdom of Heaven. Reflecting on his journey, he shared a powerful insight. "I think my anger drove my success. When you feel uncomfortable in your own body, it fuels rage, and I channeled that rage into my sport." His story is a raw, honest look at how pain can be transformed into power, and how self-acceptance can begin only after facing what we've long tried to hide. Kylar Broadus may not be a household name in pop culture, but his impact is nothing short of monumental. Over 2 decades ago, Kylar transitioned, at a time when visibility and support for transgender individuals were scarce. Instead of shying away from public life, he leaned in, building a groundbreaking legal career focused on LGBTQ+ rights and transgender justice. As a lawyer, advocate, and educator, Kylar dedicated his life to pushing boundaries and creating safe spaces where none previously existed. He is the founder and director of the Trans People of Color Coalition, the only US-based organization specifically fighting for the civil rights of trans people of color. In addition, he co-founded the Transgender Law and Policy Institute, which works to change legal frameworks and promote equality. His work has shaped national conversations around gender, race, and law, bridging gaps with clarity and conviction. In 2012, Kylar made history as the first transgender American to testify before the US Senate, speaking in support of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. During his powerful testimony, he explained that transitioning was not about becoming someone new. It was about aligning his external identity with who he had always been inside. With that single moment, Kylar helped shift the narrative, proving that living your truth can also shape the future of justice. Buck Angel was born female, but spent much of his early life battling deep discomfort with his body. Rather than hiding from that pain, he confronted it head-on, choosing to transition into life as a man without undergoing bottom surgery. Buck didn't shy away from visibility. Instead, he stepped into the spotlight by entering the adult film industry, not just as a performer, but as a bold representative of trans identity. Through his career and activism, Buck has redefined what masculinity can look like. For him, being a man isn't limited to surgery or biology. It's about facial hair, muscle, self-perception, and confidence. He believes that masculinity is a state of being, not a physical checklist, and he's built his platform around that message. His openness has empowered countless people to embrace their bodies and identities without shame. Today, Buck Angel is more than a performer. He's a speaker, an educator, and a pioneer. By sharing his journey with raw honesty, he's helped others see that masculinity is not one size fits all. His story is about ownership of identity, personal power, and the courage it takes to live without apology. Kye Allums made history as the first openly transgender man to play NCAA Division I women's basketball. Born Kye Allums, he spent his early years navigating a world that didn't reflect who he truly was. While growing up, he often identified as a boy, but it took time and courage to put that truth into words. In high school, Kye initially labeled himself a lesbian, but soon realized that label didn't fit. His identity ran deeper than sexual orientation. It was about who he was, not just who he loved. As a teen, Kye faced daily challenges in expressing himself. He felt most comfortable in boyish clothes, but his mother would take them away, forcing him to dress in traditionally feminine outfits. To cope, Kye came up with a system. He'd pack basketball shorts and sweatshirts in his backpack, change into them at school, and switch back into girls' clothes before heading home. It was a quiet rebellion, a way to feel at peace, at least for a few hours a day. When Kye came out as transgender during his time on the women's basketball team at George Washington University, it sparked public debate. NCAA regulations allowed him to keep playing, as long as he wasn't undergoing hormone therapy. His case pushed the conversation forward, prompting ongoing reviews of trans athlete eligibility policies. Kye's courage opened doors not just for trans athletes, but for visibility, conversation, and change in collegiate sports. Katastrophe, born female, is widely regarded as the first hip-hop artist to openly explore his transgender identity through music. At a time when few trans men were visible in mainstream culture, let alone in the rap scene, he stepped forward with bold, unfiltered lyrics that spoke to authenticity, pain, and power. His work has been featured in documentaries like Poetic License, Pick Up the Mic, Enough Man, and Riot Acts, where his voice helped build a bridge between music and social justice. In his songs, Katastrophe addressed themes that many trans people rarely heard reflected back to them: community, privilege, intimacy, and self-worth. He once shared how deeply his music resonated with others, saying, "I know that I reached a lot of young trans guys looking for their reflection in culture." He spoke of the messages he received, young people telling him they used his lyrics to come out to their parents. Though he never sought the title of role model, he felt immense gratitude for the connection, saying, "If people found something valuable in my music, it was a bonus." Beyond music, Katastrophe continued his advocacy in powerful ways. In October 2009, he and Amos Mack co-founded Original Plumbing, the first magazine created by and for trans men. It became a platform not just for visibility, but for empowerment, giving voice to a community that had long been overlooked. Through rhythm, storytelling, and representation, Katastrophe helped shift culture and prove that art can be a lifeline. Ryan Cassata is a multi-talented transgender man, a musician, public speaker, writer, filmmaker, and actor, whose journey has inspired thousands. By the age of 22, he had already made waves by openly discussing topics like gender identity disorder, bullying, and the daily struggles of being trans. At Bayshore High School, Ryan made history as the first openly transgender student fighting for the right to use the correct bathroom and to have his chosen name printed in the yearbook. His courage was not just personal, it was political. Music became both his refuge and his weapon. Ryan began playing guitar at just 6 years old, and over time turned his artistry into advocacy. His lyrics tackle social justice issues head-on, weaving personal truth with public message. He went on to become the first openly transgender musician to perform at the iconic Vans Warped Tour, breaking barriers in the alternative music scene. By 2015, his YouTube channel had racked up over 54,000 subscribers and 3.3 million views, proving that people were listening and moved. Reflecting on his journey, Ryan shared that fear once held him back, so much so that he avoided using public restrooms altogether. But over time, he learned that bravery isn't about being unafraid. It's about stepping forward despite the fear. Today, Ryan continues to use his voice, his music, and his platform to speak out for trans youth, showing the world that authenticity isn't just powerful, it's revolutionary. These 15 stories aren't just about transitioning, they're about reclaiming identity, rewriting expectations, and redefining what it means to live in your truth. Each man you've met today faced a different path, but they all share something in common: the courage to become who they really are, even when the world didn't make it easy. If these journeys moved you, challenged you, or opened your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, visibility saves lives, and every story told brings us all one step closer to understanding. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.